Lenovo's budget-minded LOQ15 is easy to type on and competent for 1080p play, but this gaming laptop's weighty plastic build and ho-hum screen keep it from top marks. Following the resounding success of its Legion line of gaming laptops, Lenovo recently introduced an alternate line with a deeper emphasis on budget. With a starting price of $949, $1,279 as tested, model APH8, its first effort is the LOQ15, which we had hands-on time with earlier this year. It runs on modest specs and within a tamer build versus the Legion series, but it borrows some of that DNA for an appealing budget gaming laptop. If you're strapped for cash, the LOQ15 will serve you just fine, but the cheaper Gigabyte Aorus 15 BMF outperforms it and beats it on features, keeping a lock on its Editor's Choice Award for the category. With the LOQ15, Lenovo dialed down the build a bit to break into the budget bracket. While the fairly affordable Lenovo Legion Slim 5 Gen 8 and Lenovo Legion Pro 5 Gen 8 both featured metal display lids and sturdy plastics elsewhere, the Lenovo LOQ15 gets an all-plastic chassis. It's still rather firm, with little flex, thanks to a solid stuffing of components. To try and mask this material's downgrade, Lenovo added more flourishes, with blue accents on the speaker grills and radiator fins, though only the fins are visible while actually using the laptop. The plastic bezels are another obvious downgrade, not because they're plastic, but because they're bigger than most would like. Despite the Lenovo LOQ15 being thicker and larger from front to back than, and just as wide as, the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 Gen 8, it has a smaller display. Its 15.6-inch panel uses the more typical 16:9 aspect ratio and is left with more bezel width as a result. The LOQ15 also proves the heavier laptop at 5.4 pounds, despite its lower-end hardware, which is a real shame. Nothing special about Lenovo's screen used here, it's typical of screens I've seen in late-model budget machines. It displays a 1080p native resolution at a 144Hz refresh rate. That might seem super fast, but 144Hz has become mostly standard for gaming machines. The panel doesn't produce a wide color gamut or high brightness, though it does have an anti-glare coating that makes for relatively easy viewing compared with a glossy display with similar brightness levels. We've got data on our screen tests later in this review. The Lenovo LOQ15 comes in just two configurations. The higher-end APH8 unit, which we tested, comes in at $1,279 with an AMD Ryzen 7 7840HS processor alongside an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4050 graphics chip, 16GB of DDR5 memory, and a 1TB PCIe 4.0 solid-state drive. At $949, the cheaper model runs on a Ryzen 5 7640HS CPU and actually opts for a previous generation RTX 3050 GPU while featuring just 8GB of DDR5 RAM and a 512GB SSD. Lenovo also notes a downgrade to QLC NAND as opposed to the TLC NAND in the 1TB drive. Despite Lenovo's pair of models, our test unit didn't line up with the sold options. Our model had the higher-tier CPU and GPU pairing and should have come with 1TB of storage and 16GB of RAM, but instead shipped with 512GB of storage and 8GB of RAM. It's also important to note here that the Lenovo LOQ15's memory and storage are upgradable after purchase, with storage upgrades made especially easy, thanks to an extra M.2 slot. One of the more positive traits that the Lenovo LOQ15 inherited from its higher-end siblings was their excellent keyboard arrangement and engineering. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos.